All right, so we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, folks.
And action.
All right, folks. Welcome to the very first episode of For the Birds. We have with us here today a very special guest, a good friend, longtime musical companion of nearly 20 years. And this guy managed the Noises 10, our old band.
Right.
He has worked with me in some capacity on pretty much every musical project I've ever done, from navigating publishing deals, making records, signing record deals. You and I with the Noises 10, and
vocal coach.
Yep, music instructor.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and I was saying this earlier, Andy. Outside of my wife and Jonathan, you definitely have been my biggest music supporter through everything. So, and big music fan. You've got a lot of interesting stuff.
I said this earlier too. You probably like music more than we do. I would say so.
Yeah, because I'm not around it as much as you guys.
You're a music fan. When it comes to music knowledge, history of bands and artists who played on what records and stuff like that, you seem to know a good bit. And you can tell us a little bit more about how your job and who you are and yourself. But as far as how we know you, it's been through this collaboration we've had over the past 20 years with music. So without further ado, welcome Andy Johnson.
Andy Johnson.
Thank you, gentlemen.
He's here.
I've never been called a musical companion. That almost implies that I have some talent. So I like that.
Well, you've been executive producer.
If you can kind of style this in a way where you talk about me as known as your musical companion, that'd be great.
Well, that's what you have been.
And For the Birds, is that right?
For the birds, yeah.
Okay. I thought it was Feed the Birds. I thought this was a tribute to Mary Poppins.
Maybe we should change.
Am I in the wrong spot?
You know what? We
should.
Yeah.
The wrong studio.
Yeah, we might
sorry,
change
dude.
it. We might change
that one's
it.
down
Feed
the
the
street.
birds. Yeah.
Dave Harris's place.
Tuppence a bag.
Yeah.
That goes to kind of my music. I love music.
Yeah. See, I didn't even know that.
No, I'm happy to be here, guys. I appreciate being the inaugural guest. Is that how you say that?
Inaugural.
Oh, we just talked about this. So you say it.
I know.
Inaugural.
Say it again.
It's
Inaugural.
a tough one.
It is.
Inaugural.
Yeah, I feel like it's an important thing to say on your
Do you
first
say
episode.
integral?
Integral.
Integral or integral?
Yeah. What do you say?
Integral.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, anyway, either way, I'm happy to be here and honored that you guys would think of me first, but that's probably so you could work out some of the kinks.
Well, I was going to say, I don't want you to think that you're our guinea pig.
But you are.
Beta test.
Beta
test.
This is
Oh,
our
yeah,
soft.
yeah.
This is our
one
soft
might just
open.
end up on the cutting room floor.
Right.
But then you can have me back when you figured it out.
So do you want to talk about like our history?
Yeah. Well, so before we get into,
Because here's the thing, because it might be nice, since this is the first episode, for people to know who we are as well.
yeah.
Not to be narcissistic.
No, I figured this would become the Jonathan show. I just wasn't sure it would be in the first minute and a half.
Damn
It
it.
doesn't waste any time.
It just
But no, let's do that. So let's talk about. We want to get into the format of the show, which is digging into your playlist, these songs that are, cornerstones of your soundtrack, your life soundtrack, that have been important to you in some way, shape, or form. But let's talk about the way that our lives have intersected, how we got to know each other. I recall the first time we met, and we have our perspective on it. But how did, in terms of your relationship with us and how you've worked with us as manager, and just being like a fan and a supporter of the music and helping us through all these various situations over the years, like how do you remember things coming to be?
Well, it was a long time ago, so I probably only remember the good things, but most of them were really good. I think the way I remember it, it was probably at some point in 2004 or early 2005, so a long time ago, nearly 20 years, as you said.
20 years, yeah.
And I had a coworker who noted that you guys were playing at a local gig, local venue, the Visualite Theater here in Charlotte. And I've always loved original new music, local bands. I've always wanted to support bands like that. So I was happy to go out and see a band that I had not seen before. And that point, it was Jason Scavone and the Noises 10.
That's right.
And I didn't know what to expect. I don't think I had heard anything before I showed up. And the show was fucking awful. And I thought, there's a lot to work with here. There's a lot of improvement could be measured
I knew it was
very
coming.
quickly. No, I really liked what I heard, and really, not to stroke the ego too much, Jason, but I think people that see or hear the band first gravitate to your vocal, which, there are a lot of good musicians, but singing is hard, and a lot of it's a gift, and not everybody has a singer that can kind of carry a band that's still figuring stuff out, and you guys clearly were. I had worked with bands in the past. I was no guru, but I could tell that there was like this raw energy and talent. You guys seemed young. You probably described a few songs as new songs, and I thought, okay, these guys are writing. They've apparently got a record that they've done locally, and it was all very exciting because what I really gravitate to, and I'm not being a musician, is I don't always understand all the progressions or the intricacies of the musicality of the guys up there, but
Me neither.
hopefully you understand it better than I do. But just hearing a hook and hearing songs that I remember after I leave a show, that's pretty unusual. I mean, you might hear a fantastic guitar solo or something that really strikes you as unusual and special, but to hear kind of a rock based pop crafted song that carries itself into your ears and into your head is kind of unusual. And that's how I left. And so I went back and said, look, I loved what I heard. I think I picked up the record at the time, the first record that you guys had, which you're going to tell me the name of it right now.
It All Belongs.
It All Belongs,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And of course, when you listen to that record, and it's cool and old, and it's got a lot of nostalgia to me to listen to it, but you had these almost Queen-like vocals and harmonies that felt just sort of unusual, layered over the bedrock of kind of the straight rock, and so I was intrigued to just meet you guys and find out what you had going on. I didn't know if I could help or add any value or really just become a fan of what you guys were doing. And so I think we met a week or two later at a bar. Wasn't sure if you guys were old enough to drink, but turns out you were barely, probably.
I was 24. Yeah.
24.
Yeah.
So
Most of us.
and that kind of started what evolved into, like you said, kind of a lifelong partnership on music that got really exciting a few years after that, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I liked that I was meeting you guys. It felt serendipitous.
You got it.
You got it.
And in the way that you guys were just starting to come into your own as a band. Who's in the band?
Yeah.
How are we writing songs? Are we practicing? Are we playing shows? And probably most importantly, there were no egos at that point. You guys were just looking for some direction and opportunity to keep doing what you guys love doing. So it made it really easy to kick things off shortly after that.
Did you said you worked with bands to some extent before that, and I know we've talked about you did some stuff with Horde and Guster and stuff like that in your younger years, but had you were working at a law firm at the time, and not your main gig wasn't as a music manager, obviously.
No.
What had you set your sights on at some point? I want to transition out of this type of career into a career in music business, or was that something that you had kind of earlier in, before working at that firm,
Right.
that you were dabbling in, that you planned on maybe getting back to? I mean, what made you feel like, I could be a fan now, but transition into somebody that's at more of a managerial role?
Didn't you do a tour, running merch, driving a van, and all,
Absolutely.
even before you became a
Who
lawyer?
I am today.
Yeah.
Well,
The man you are now.
But you did that before you became a lawyer.
Yeah, I did. So always been a big music fan, never had really any talent or dedication to even seeing if I could develop as a musician, but always felt that, music was necessary to kind of complete what I was going through in life. And whatever it was, I always had music on as far back as I can remember. And I think I attribute a lot of that to my dad, who's still a big music fan and always kind of had the big 80s home stereo on with vinyl or 8-track. And and eventually we gravitated to middle school. We got a CD player very early on, early adopters.
Did you guys
And-
have like the multi-disc changer?
No, it was just a single.
Just a single, okay.
And I think my dad still has it. And
Nice.
it still works. Sanyo.
Sanya, yeah,
Sanya.
yeah.
And, we got a few CDs, and then we kind of build from there. So loved music. And in high school, started to do a little bit by promoting shows. And we there was a local band. They were kind of a derivative U2 band, and we thought they could do no wrong. They were called the Screaming Carrots. And but with a K.
Of course.
And
that makes perfect sense.
and we my buddy and I held a benefit concert, and we were just on top of the world because we brought all these schools together, and everyone loved this band, and so quickly I thought, wow, it'd be amazing if I could combine a professional life with music, realizing I wasn't going to be in a band, and that dream quickly faded when you go to law school, and sure, I applied for jobs doing entertainment law, but those are hard to come by. It's a small niche profession, a lot of people that have connections and experiences in the space. So I kind of had given up on that. I have done some stuff, and we'll talk about it when we get into my songs a little bit about other things I did with respect to bands. But by the time I met you guys, I had just had my oldest daughter. She was likely under 3 or 4 months old. And other than practicing corporate law and listening to music, mostly during my commute, I wasn't doing anything active in music. Now, the corollary of that story is my friend Mark, who I had done that show with in high school, he had the wherewithal to continue to just follow that completely. So he graduated from college with $1, and he said, I'm going to work in the music business. And then he was down to no money, and I'm going to work in the music business. Do you have a couch I can sleep on? And he just followed that right into record label and management, and our paths have crossed many times since then. So I like to think that we kind of had the same starting place, and then we just went different directions. And he's still a manager at a large management company, and I'm still a lawyer. So the nice thing is I've been able to do more in music than probably a lot of lawyers get to do. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, even after you managed us, I remember there was a period of time when you were taking on, because it was primarily the Noises 10, but there was a period of time when you were working with Matt Knutson's band, The Empties, right? And was there anybody else that you were?
No, I love that band, and obviously Matt came and joined the Noises 10 eventually, which was fantastic, and really special time for the Noises 10 when he was part of it. But no, I don't think formally. I mean, you and I have done a few development projects with artists, and that's fun, but not formally. I mean, it's been mostly with you, and by extension, the Noises 10 guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you get in contact with the Screaming Carrots by
You know,
any chance? Like, are they still
Because
around?
we'd like to have them as guests. for the next one.
we want to have them.
If I had to guess, they're probably still based in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
They had a great T-shirt that all the cool kids in high school had, and it on the back it said "A band of, by, and for the people."
Perfect.
Which was true, and very very recently, their music has made it onto Spotify.
Oh,
So I
their
don't.
music.
we
But
can
is it
find
new
them?
music or is it music from that era?
It's music from that era.
Oh wow. Okay.
Their big song was called "The Call."
Okay.
And the tag was, "Do you believe in the call? Do you believe in the call?"
I want to pull it up.
And
I want to pull it up so
we could.
bad.
yeah,
we-
if the soundtrack to my life was longer, they would be on it for sure. But no, I you see that kind of first local band when you're young, and it's something pretty powerful actually. You know?
Absolutely.
And they sort of owned the scene back then.
Yeah.
in the early '90s.
Okay. Okay.
Nice.
Well, why don't we do this? Let's jump into your playlist. So doesn't have to be chronological. So what song would you like to teach
Can
us?
it be chronological?
It can be.
It can be. I am a
Well,
lawyer.
we
like,
we talked about this. I was like,
A before B before C. I mean,
Right.
well, I don't know if that works best for.
It works. Whatever
we're
works
doing, I
for
don't
you.
know.
Whatever
Yeah.
works for
Well,
you.
I'm thinking of my playlist, and let me start by saying the idea that you can boil a music lover's playlist down to 4 songs is impossible.
Well, you can't. But you can have.
Yeah.
But the songs that are like the cornerstones of the playlist. Like your playlist could be hundreds of songs long.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Right.
like when
Well,
someone asks you, like, what's your favorite song?
There
I'm like,
isn't
well, it
one.
depends on the day.
It depends
like,
on, yeah. Like
today, this is my favorite song.
Right.
Tomorrow, it's going to be totally different.
absolutely.
But,
Right.
I agree.
But
Yeah.
from like your perspective now, as you're 46, right? 48.
Yes, I'm 46.
How old are you?
I'm
You're
46.
So you're
So I'm
2 years
43. No, I'm 49.
49. So you're 49 years old. The way you view this playlist, the soundtrack of your life, is going to be different than in your 20s or 30s or whatever. So,
absolutely.
Right. So from this perspective, I find it's like, yeah, we could have several hundred songs on that playlist but the idea of 3 to 5, one, we don't have, we have to condense this down into a conversation that people want to listen to. But two,
Right.
I feel like everybody has those key songs. Like at this point in my life, that song was the song that really spoke to me.
That's
Right?
kind of how I approached
Yeah.
the you guys threw out the request, and it's table stakes that you've got some Beatles on your your
Yes.
playlist.
You're right.
And I grew up. I mean, I think anybody who was born from the 60s on, most people have the Beatles in there. I mean, that's what I grew up on. That's what I remember listening to with my dad. Wings, Beatles, Paul McCartney. That was a big part of growing up.
Right.
So I start with that. But I tried to pick 4 songs that represent different moments in my development as a person that when I think of a period of my life, I remember listening to this song. I remember how it made me feel. I remember why I listened to it, who introduced it to me.
Right.
And
So there's more.
importantly, at the ripe old age of 49, I'm still listening to these songs.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
that's kind of how I approached the 4 songs I gave you.
Yeah.
I think if I can, I do them chronologically,
Let's do
just
it.
the way I'm thinking about them.
Yeah. So
We
what's
can
the
do
first
that.
song?
We can do that.
So
You sent us 4.
Yep.
In the order that you sent, that's the
That
order.
was the order
That's
that
what you
that
wanna
I'm
start
thinking
What's
of.
the first song? The
So,
Smiths?
yeah.
Yeah.
So you introduced the song.
So my first song is The Smiths, Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now. And, this is a song that I first heard on its second compilation. It was a single. The compilation Louder Than Bombs came out in 87.
We talked about that.
And they were on a compilation a couple years earlier as well.
yeah.
The B-side was Girl Afraid, which is another amazing song. So when I was, early high school, most of what I heard was either what I grew up hearing or what was on the radio.
right.
And we didn't have a radio station in West Michigan playing the Smiths, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I go to summer camp, which I did every summer, and I finally age out of being a camper, and I'm going to work in the kitchen, right? Cleaning, setting the table, clearing. Great job for a kid who's, I think, 9th grade going into 10th.
Okay.
And I was sharing a cabin with the other guy working the kitchen. I want to call him John. I think his name was John. And he brought a boombox, which how did I forget a boombox? I don't know. I guess I didn't have one. But he brought it, and what was funny is he basically only brought 2 cassette tapes for the whole summer.
Nice.
He brought Metallica, Master of Puppets, which I loved and already knew,
Yeah.
and was happy to hear. And then he threw this album in called Louder Than Bombs by the Smiths, which was a compilation, and it just blew my mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I had never heard like the guitar, the vocals, and what I love about this song is it makes me feel so happy, yet the lyrics are incredibly depressing, and
It's
talk
one
about
of the
that.
darkest songs
It's
I've
so
ever
dark.
heard.
It's-
Which most of the Smiths,
They
most
are.
of their songs
and
are
we
kind
can-
of like that.
We
but
can get into this more as we dive into these songs, but
Yeah.
I was not surprised, but I found it interesting. I think every song on this playlist of yours is pretty dark to some extent. There's hope. There's hope in some of the songs. Well, we can talk more specifically, but and that's the cool thing about. And I was never a Smiths fan, not because I didn't like them. I think it might have been just my age. I'm 44 now, so a few years younger
don't
than
have
you.
to keep making that point. I mean,
A little younger.
I get it. You're more into the boy bands. I
Right.
get it.
No, but I mean, I was Fat Boys Crushing, that kind of thing was what I came up listening to. But it was like Morrissey was. I discovered Morrissey solo
Yeah,
artist,
yeah.
and then
Bone and
later
Drag
discovered
and everything
right.
else.
And it's not that I didn't like it; it just wasn't what was put in front of me at that age.
Well,
And
you should have worked at summer camp.
I should have. But I listened to the Smiths, and that's what I hear is that juxtaposition between, especially in this song, this really bouncy, very
guitar's jangly.
and it
And Johnny Marr
feels
wrote
positive.
this in like a day or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
And, it's but the lyric
is it's not just sad and depressing, but it's like spiteful.
Well,
Yeah.
it's almost violent. Like
Yeah.
I was telling
like
Jason
Morrissey
earlier,
kicked someone in the eye, and
Yeah.
and there's like multiple songs where he's like, "I'm gonna smash your teeth out."
Yeah.
Like that's their vibe.
Yeah,
And it's a
And this,
strange.
I did a little research on it, and you heard it on a compilation, but I saw the song came out initially shortly after their first album as a single.
it was in '84. I think.
In '84,
Yeah.
but it was just released as a single, and then
Yeah.
later on a
Yeah.
compilation, which is it's interesting that it's, you know, such a popular song that didn't make it on a record.
But
initially.
Louder Than Bombs is, I mean, you know, even real Smiths fans give a big nod to Louder Than Bombs being a compilation of all these fantastic songs
Right.
and singles. And but I hear you. It wasn't like on, you know, Meat is Murder or you know,
Yeah.
What the Queen is Dead or
That's my favorite.
yeah,
album, but
Okay.
But it's one of my favorite. I love the polarization between the way the song makes you feel and if you actually listen to the lyrics. And the last thing I'll say about it before we listen is, you know, you talk about soundtrack for your life. So I had a tape player. I had a bunk bed, and I'd put the tape player on the top bunk, and I slept on the bottom one. And so it was closer to the ceiling. And I played this tape so much that I wore the tape out, and my mom finally came down and thought like I had it on repeat or something. She was like, I can't take it. All I can hear is you playing, you know, this guy who's singing about, you know, kicking people in the eye or something.
I can't do it. I can't.
So
do
I
it.
really played this one out.
You really
Like,
did. That's really cool. That's really cool.
This was one of my last tapes, probably, and first CDs. And,
Wow. Well, before we
yeah.
listen to it, I do have a question for you. When you listened to this song then, as a teenager, were you drawn to? What was there an element you were drawn to more than the other, like the lyrical element or the musical element, or was that contrast? Were you aware of that contrast at that time?
It was. I was.
Okay.
I was really smart, and so no,
Clearly.
it really was that contrast.
Yeah.
Because I would find myself singing it badly, but yet feeling really good about it, and I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's listen to it.
I was happy in the haze of a drunken hour, but heaven knows I'm miserable now. I was looking for a job and then I found a job, and heaven knows I'm miserable now.
Were you a huge music lover already at this point in your life? Were you already like really listening to listening to records like that where you're listening on repeat?
Yeah, I was I definitely on my way, right? Like, you know, for me maybe a little later than some. You know, I think elementary school was a lot of stuff that you heard on the radio. You know, my first album was I went out and saved my money and bought Jay Giles' band Freeze Frame, which was amazing. But I was hearing it from the radio, right?
Right.
So most of what, call it from 4th grade to 8th grade, was, you know, what the radio fed me.
Right.
I was the guy that called the radio station every night to get in on the contests.
Oh, right, right.
Actually, my West Michigan friends will remember this. I was on WKLQ. I forget their call, but I was the one on their all-time winners list.
Wow.
So I got tickets to License to Drive with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
shit.
I got a boombox. I got a U2 Rattle and Hum
Too bad you didn't
VHS
have that
tape.
boombox at summer camp.
Yeah, I maybe it was after that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was well on my way. I think the first time I listened to something that consumed me, that I wasn't hearing, you know, straight from the radio, was probably either Unforgettable Fire or Joshua Tree by U2.
Yeah.
And then probably, you know, roughly around the same time is when I started. What's interesting is as you get a little older and your friend group expands, you find people that are listening to things that you've never heard of. So this guy at camp wasn't my friend before that, but we were in the same room, we were bunking, and I adopted kind of what he was listening to.
Right,
and
sure.
And it takes a little while to evolve to that point where you're sharing music. And
Yeah.
that's how I first heard Appetite for Destruction. I was a skateboarder, and I went down to skate with Tomko and the guys, and they were rocking out Appetite, and I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
Life-changing.
you know, yeah.
Big time,
So
yeah.
that kind of happened for me, call it late middle school, early high school.
Yeah. So really, like, part of why this song is included on your soundtrack One, because obviously you loved the song, you played it,
And the band. I
And the
love the
band.
Smiths.
Love
I
the
love
Smiths.
Morrissey. I love
Yeah.
Johnny Marr.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
too.
But but it also, do you feel like it's like it was a coming of age period, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it kind of
I do.
signifies like that period of your life, and that, like you're going to summer camp. I mean, that's a big thing. Like, I mean, had you been to a stay away summer camp for?
Well, yeah, because I had gone there
You'd gone there before.
before
Okay,
I had
okay,
worked
okay.
there. But to your point and where you're going, this was one of these songs that, as a new kid at the high school, it was the summer after, but I was still sort of new. I was still kind of finding my feet, my friends, and this was an album and a song that kind of captured that point in my life where you're really changing. You're meeting new people. You're trying to figure out if you're confident or not at school and class, etc.
Yep.
And for me, I had a small collection of CDs, all of which I still have in my closet. My wife will tell you that. And then this thing on repeat, because it spoke to me in a way where
Yeah.
I liked the fact that I was in on the joke. Like it was
Right.
like this really danceable, fun song, and we're talking about giving you valuable time when I should just kick you in the eye.
But you got it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you got it.
You know the secret.
We're the
Like, that's the
Smith-
thing.
And
yeah.
not everyone liked the Smiths.
Well, that's what
and
I was
that's the
gonna
other
ask.
thing that's cool too.
Well,
There's
yeah.
a lot of Tone Loc fans, right, bro? I
Right.
mean,
Well, that's the
Jody
thing.
Watley,
So, like,
Tone Loc.
I remember in school, like
It was
people,
cool to be a Smiths
That's
fan.
what I was gonna say. Like it was. Were kids in your, at your school? Was it like more fringe and hip to like the Smiths as opposed to like? Was that what people were listening to, or were you kind of like, you felt like you were kind of in that elite group of folks that's like, I know about this band that
I was the only guy in the football locker room listening to the Smiths.
right.
I promise you that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
There was a group of people that probably loved the Smiths, and I was friends with those people, but that wasn't my core social circle.
Right.
My core
Right.
social circle was listening to albums like Appetite for Destruction,
Yeah.
In the Weight
Yeah.
Room, and AC/DC Back in Black,
Yeah.
Van Halen 5150, and OU 812.
Did
I
you
I
write
like all
stuff?
those things.
All great stuff.
I like those things,
Yeah.
but one of the things I've always kind of been proud of is my musical tastes, with one obvious exception, really run the gamut. The exception
Very
being country
eclectic.
music.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I get pretty damn close to that too.
Well, we do
but,
in this playlist,
but,
yeah.
But for the most part, I'm all over the spectrum. And
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Did you ride the bus to high school? Or did you
For a couple
drive?
years, or
Junior high school, or like
so I was a late birthday, so I didn't
Okay.
turn 16 until October of junior year.
yeah.
So my first 2 years, I rode the bus with
So
the
did,
Walkman.
Did you have? Okay,
Yeah.
that was where I
Walkman?
was going with it.
Yeah.
Did you do it too?
Walkman on the bus?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, you had to, because otherwise they would have beat the shit out of you, right? Like
Totally. No, I was John LeCare could tell you I was the smallest bully. He told me this many times. He's like, "You're the smallest bully I've ever met."
What does that mean?
It's like the tallest midget.
The tallest midget. I just had a lot of bravado, man. I was trying to compensate. I didn't want to be bullied. I was occasionally, but I was like, if I
Yeah.
can just make people think I'm tough.
Show them
right,
now,
right.
and you
Yeah.
just sing their face off.
Yeah,
don't
that's right. That's right. Now I just
Yeah,
croon
so-
them to death.
Everyone rode the bus, and nowadays I think the kids all have their AirPods in and are
Yeah.
on their phone. Unfortunately, it wasn't like that, but
Yeah.
a few of us
Mm.
would have, the foam. It was like a wire that if you did it wrong could probably pierce your skull, but
Yeah, yeah.
otherwise you'd pull it down. You had the foam going and a Walkman tape.
Well, I just remember in high school I would have like my headphones on, and I would
In high school, yeah.
Well, I wasn't allowed to, but at where
West
we
Charlotte,
went to
yeah.
school,
Yeah.
But I would wear them, and that was like, I have songs in my head where I'm like, this is high
Yeah.
school, this is high school, this is high school, and every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I'm walking to second period.
Yeah.
Like it brings you right back
Yeah.
to like all of that stuff.
That's the cool thing about music, and that's part of why we wanted to do this podcast. Is it's like that that ability, that hearing a song that was important to you, or even just maybe it wasn't, but just a song you heard a lot during a period of time, the way it can bring you back to that. Like I mean, there's certain Steve Winwood songs when, like, if my eyes are closed and I hear them, I feel like I'm in the cul-de-sac and my dad's outside washing the car with the the speakers blasting in the garage. It's like I'm right there, and and there's a feeling, like sometimes a taste or the smell that'll come to me. It's crazy, and so it's like I feel like having a song like this that you listen to so much at those that pivotal time of being a young teenager, it can really, it's interesting because I don't continue to listen to a lot of the music that I loved at that time period. There's some, I mean, I don't go back to it, but I still love Appetite for Destruction. That was a big record for me at that period.
Blast it.
Yeah, but okay. Well,
I thought you were more of a Spaghetti Incident guy.
No.
All right, before we move to the next song, I will say the very first time I heard the Smiths, well, I'm sure I heard them, but recall listening to them, I was in college, and I went to a party, and it was at a house. And there was a
party. Hold on. They had a party at a house in college?
No, it was an apartment. It was an apartment.
Okay.
And there was a big picture of Rocky Horror Picture Show. Who Tim? What's his name?
Burton?
No.
Tim.
That's the. I don't.
Everyone listening right now is gonna be like, "These guys are idiots."
We are idiots.
I know Rocky Horror. I just don't.
You're talking about the actor who played.
Yeah, that played.
Who
Rocky
also
Horror.
was in Home Alone.
Yeah. What's his name?
Macaulay Culkin.
No, god damn it.
Today's episode of For the Birds was shot at Susu Studio in Charlotte, North Carolina. Susu is my home base. It is also the home base of music producer and video editor extraordinaire Chris Waldorf. If you're an artist or a band looking for a place to cut your next record, look us up at www.susustudio.com. All right, well, what's the next song?
So chronologically,
You remember the order?
yeah, I do.
All right.
Just to kind of take you to where I jumped off on this next song, you guys mentioned my background in doing different music projects. So college promoted bands, brought a lot of bands in. And at the end of college, before law school, I did have the opportunity, you guys mentioned it, I think Jonathan mentioned it, to tour on the Horde Tour, which was John Popper and probably a few other people's creation. It was a little left to center leaning musically, a little jammy, summer tour in 94 and 95 and 96, I think, when I was on it. Blues Traveler, Dave Matthews Band were the big ones, Lenny Kravitz. Yep. There were some others that were staples. But the band that I was introduced to in 1995, and my good friend Chris, who I'm still friends with, college roommate, introduced me to this album toward probably the latter part of what ended up being my senior year of college, 95, 96. And I heard it, I loved it, but I lost touch with this album. And it wasn't until that summer when we toured the country, we did, I'm making this up, but it's directionally accurate, 20 shows in 25 days or something like that. We started in probably Chicago or Wisconsin and did the whole South, which was new to me, all the way out west through California up to Seattle, and then back through Denver and the Midwest, and ended on the East Coast when I had to peel off to go to law school. And the album of that summer that we played, and we had a van, we had like 5 of us, including my buddy Mark, who I mentioned earlier, and some other people I still keep in close touch with. We represented a record label on the tour, Aware Records, and Aware went on to sign people like John Mayer and The Fray and others that did just huge commercial success. But their point on this tour was to be the record shop. And so we had a tent, and we had about 20 CD players that we packed in our van, and we had a bunch of CDs, Aware artists and then artists from the tour, and we would let people listen to,
right.
And then we'd ask them for $12 for the album. And the band that ended up playing a few of the shows on the tour, this next band, was the album of the summer. And every time I hear this album, Trace by Sunvolt, it brings me back to like that quintessential American road trip with friends.
Right.
Very little money. We slept on the side of the road. Stinky van, stacked with CDs and CD players and banners and people losing clothes and, trying to find a tent. And we might have spent 3 or 4 nights in a hotel during that 3 or 4 week period. Otherwise, it was find a place to put your tent up. And some nights were easier than others on that front. But to be driving through like West Texas in the middle of the night and to put Windfall by Sunvolt on, it was transformative. I felt like Jay Farrar was talking to us and talking to me about the same road trip. You know, and you know, 2 feet on the floor, 2 hands on the wheel.
Wow.
Let the wind take your troubles away.
Okay.
And that was the start of me really getting into like the alt country scene. It started with Uncle Tupelo, which, you know, kind of the bedrock for me. And fortunate enough to kind of see the Wilco route that summer, and also Sunvolt. And this was the first and only album that Sunvolt actually outperformed Wilco commercially.
Oh, really?
This is by far a top 5 album for me. And this song, which is the lead song on the album, is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. Yeah. I wouldn't call it dark, but what it reminds me of, Jason, is like maybe a loneliness of just being on the road. And that's kind of how we felt, because, you know, we were tired, we were exhausted, we were getting at each other's throat. You'd have everyone sleeping on the benches in the back, one guy in the shotgun trying to stay awake, and you driving. And we were playing Sunvolt Trace, and it always started with Windfall.
This is like you taking it, like, there's a very literal, you know, interpretation for you. Like, you guys are on a road trip, and these, I mean, like, because when I heard this song, I didn't even think about it. I'm thinking of it metaphorically, you know, like there's, you know, there's like going through troubled times, and is there an end in sight, you know, and that kind of thing. And, but it's interesting how, like, it could become, it's literally was the soundtrack of that period in your life in terms of like, if there was a film made or a show made of that time period, like
there
it would
be,
but there should be,
you know, there should be, but no, you're exactly right. And at least I think the entire group of us, 4 or 5 of us, whatever it was, we'd drop someone off in San Francisco and pick someone else up. It was kind of that kind of thing, but a couple of us were on the whole summer, and it was the album of the summer for us. And then what was really amazing was, as we got to some of the latter shows, it might have been St. Louis even, Sunvolt was on the second stage. And so we had been listening to this album all year, and then we roll up.
Did they play it?
Yeah.
Did you get
They only had one album at the time.
did you get to meet the guys?
They might have played some Chickamauga and some things from Uncle Tupelo. But
Did you get to meet Jay Farrar and any of the guys in the band?
no, I don't think so. We ate in a different tent.
Oh, you know, I talked to you about it earlier. Did I go to a Sunvolt show with you at the Visualite?
Yeah. Years
That
later.
was me and you.
Yeah.
That's what I. You didn't go, or you don't remember?
I don't remember.
You probably went.
No, and they had kind of expanded where they had, they might have had people on horns or
At that point,
at
when
least
they played
keys
Neighborhood,
and-
you're saying.
Oh, no,
right.
Visualite.
Or Visualite.
It was
okay.
Visualite,
And it was. I remember it was like loud as fuck.
Yeah.
It was-
Yeah, and they're still doing their thing. I've got a vinyl of one of their first, like, either radio or some sort of show from this time period.
Yeah.
And it sounds as pure as the album. I mean, it's one of my favorite vinyls. You know, I haven't followed the band forever. I was a big fan for probably 5 or 6 years after Trace came out, 95 to 2000-ish. Kind of lost track, but this is one of those albums that I can go back to at any point in time. And this is an album for me from front to back. There's nothing other than top stuff. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. Okay.
And apparently it was recorded very quickly over, you know, a couple day period or
It
something.
sounds.
And,
it sounds very live. Almost.
Yeah.
You know what I
that's
mean.
probably why the live album sounds.
Yeah. I mean,
But, you know,
I mean, I'm sure there were
incredible
overdubs.
musicians.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of my favorite.
Now and then it keeps you running, never seems to die. Trail spent with fear, not enough, living on the outside. Never seem to get far enough, staying in between the lines. Hold on to what you can, waiting for the end, not knowing when. May the wind take your troubles away.
But yeah, those were good times of you know, great summer tours where
And this
playing sheds and packing out. Almost everywhere we went was sold out. I mean, Dave Matthews Band was just blowing up. If you think of like '96,
Oh, yeah.
they were a year into kind of taking over.
They were huge. Yeah.
the scene and
Yeah.
and you know.
Now,
They were filmed
and this
places
is
out.
right before law school for you.
It was. It was the summer before law school.
Okay.
Yep.
Where did you go to law school?
University of Virginia, which is where Dave Matthews and in Charlottesville, where they were all from. So I actually kind of befriended their tour manager because they all lived in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And you know, got me a nice Dave signed Crash poster, and
Nice.
we got to celebrate Dave's birthday at the Gorge in
I remember
Seattle.
I got to hear that story. At
Yeah,
the
the best part of
cabin
that
recently.
story was we got invited backstage because at that point you've been on the tour for 20 days and people kind of at least recognize you. And somebody got Dave Matthews a cake. His birthday must be in July or August. We can verify that with Google.
Yeah, Wikipedia.
And
look
John
it up.
Popper brought. He used to wear all these swords. He might still. I don't know. I don't know if you ever seen John
Wait a minute,
Popper.
he would walk around with a
Well,
sword,
with
like in a
swords, yeah.
sheath, like
Yeah,
on his
yeah,
waist?
his
I
sheath,
think
yeah.
he got like in trouble with a bunch of guns in his car.
He didn't have guns, but he would ride around in a golf cart with the sword. And I still have this memory. We're all hanging backstage, singing "Happy Birthday" to Dave Matthews, which for a 22-year-old kid's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
amazing, yeah.
And John Popper just pulls out a sword and cuts the cake with it.
Why don't you do that?
That's rock and roll, bro.
Why don't you do
That's
that?
why-
That's rock and roll.
on.
That's
one of
why
my
our-
most rock and roll stories.
That is rock and roll.
Cut the cake with the sword.
All right, folks, if you like what you've been listening to today on For the Birds podcast, be sure to head on over to our Patreon.
We just made it.
It's amazing. Patreon.com/For the Birds podcast.
But yeah, go there and pay for some stuff and give us
What
some
are they
money.
going to find there? What do they get?
I don't even know how fucking Patreon works.
We're going to give you
Oh, bonus material,
bonus material, unedited versions of the shows,
which you really want. Trust me.
shorts.
Not our shorts, but shorts of. I'll send you some shorts. I'll
they
put them
can-
in a Ziploc
I will
bag.
definitely auction off some shorts.
I'll go jogging first, and then I'll put them in a Ziploc bag, and then you can have them.
Sweaty, used running shorts from Jonathan Erickson.
Bing bong.
Bing bong, and then you can get what else? Some just some bonus stuff. We're gonna figure it out. This is still this is growing and we're learning. We're gonna make some cool shit. Head on over to patreon.com/For the Birds podcast. Show some support. Yes, third song. All right,
All right.
what do we got?
I know what it is.
The third song on my soundtrack of my short life is from a band that I met while I was in college. They were just starting out. They had just graduated. They actually had to change their name because they were actually using the same name as I think it was a Geffen recording artist that was called Gus. These guys were called Gus at the time.
Oh, I didn't
So
know that.
they each picked a letter and became Guster. And when I first met him, they were Gus. I met him on a show that I was the stage manager for on Navy Pier in Chicago over Memorial Day, and then met them later that summer when they were playing up in I guess it was Nantucket, and I was up there with a friend, and we saw these guys play, and I was just like, wow, their energy was incredible. Three guys, only three-person band that I had seen before was Rush, and they just were infectious. The energy, the songs. The drummer only played congas and bongos, and maybe they might have had a cymbal or something similar that he was hitting, and I just clicked with these guys. I was like, you guys are incredible. Are you serious about being a band? Oh yeah, we're gonna do this full time. We've got a tour and we're gonna hit the road. We just graduated from college, so we've got a van, and why don't we come and play at your college? So I worked all that out, had them come and play, and did a lot of promoting, sold a lot of CDs, and sold out their first couple shows at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And they just showed up from Boston and had this incredible reception. And they were just floored. They were like, we're big in Boston. We're big in Oxford, Ohio. It was a really funny dynamic. So after college and after spending a lot of time with these guys promoting shows, I became closer with them. And after law school, went on the road with them as their tour manager. No, what was I? Yeah, the tour manager. No, I was the merchandise guy.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Close enough. No offense to whoever was tour managing. It was probably Pasty at the time. And stayed with Brian Rosenworcel, the drummer, for a while in New York. He had a place in Brooklyn. I think he still has it. And they were just at the point then of kind of breaking big time.
Mm-hmm.
They had signed a big deal. They had gotten Steve Lillywhite on board to produce their album. And, you know, Lillywhite had worked with everyone from, you know, the Beatles, probably the Stones. I think maybe it wasn't the Beatles. Maybe it was McCartney, but U2. He had done all this cool stuff. And they had played their new songs to Lillywhite, and he had agreed to produce their album. So that's when I was on tour with them, and it was really exciting. It was right before life was going to start getting serious for me as a practicing lawyer, and I picked a particular song, not that came off that album, which was called Lost and Gone Forever, but the next album was called Keep It Together, which is just a great album. I think it's probably 2002, a couple years before I met you guys.
That's my favorite album.
Keep It Together?
Yep.
Yeah.
By far.
And they brought Joe Pisapia on to this album.
That's what I was wondering, is when he joined.
He joined, I believe, on this album, because I know he co-wrote Jesus on the Radio, which is off this album, and maybe another song. So this was Joe's first album. For me, the opus was the next album, Ganging Up on the Sun. But I love this album, Keep It Together. And I picked a particular song called Come Downstairs and Say Hello, because to me it embodies, first of all, it's like a quintessential Guster song with some really cool vocal parts, some bongos, some drum. But to me, it's a complex song. It's a little longer than most. Yep. And it embodies to me Guster pivoting from kind of a bar band to a real touring band, writing huge, complex songs that are better live and involve a lot of musicianship that these guys were always capable of. But they were a tight knit little trio, and I think when they got in the studio for this album and this song in particular, they really opened things up.
Yeah,
I also love in the lyric the imagery of the juxtaposition, and you guys have always heard this, of Dark Side of the Moon and the Wizard of Oz movie. Which I'm sure you guys tried this during your
many times
smoky high school days.
Yeah,
but and I haven't actually tried it, but I do love that metaphor, and people believe in that, and whether it's true or not, I've never read from Pink Floyd, but I love that lyric, and I also like the idea that I don't know what the song. Ryan Miller, the lead singer, wrote this song.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what it was intended to be, but I kind of view it as more literal, as, you know, trying to bring someone out of something to something new that might be uncomfortable, but they have to do it. They have to push through it. I like that sentiment. I used to think, what if the song was called Go Upstairs and Say Goodbye? It would be totally different, right?
Right.
But it's very hopeful that this person is being pulled out and starting something new, which the lyric reveals. And to me, it's just the classic Guster song. And Guster's one of these bands that I kind of grew up with. I've always loved. I still love. They just announced a new album, Ooh La La,
really? Okay, cool.
that will come out, I think, in April or May.
Right.
And they're doing it at 51 years old. They're touring. They sold out Red Rocks this summer again.
Wow.
And they've built a whole career around music.
Yeah.
And I respect the hell out of those guys for doing that.
Yeah,
That's great.
They're
Well, going back to what the song means lyrically. So what did we come up with? So
I was thinking of it more of like Ryan. I've heard the hope, but I was hearing it more as like he's speaking to himself. Like he's going through something difficult, but has this mantra that he's saying to himself. Like, I don't remember the exact lyric, and you pull it up, but it's tomorrow is a new start, or whatever the lyric is.
Right.
You know, where he it's basically him saying that. What is it? It's
Tomorrow's the start of New Direction.
Yeah, new direction. Yeah, and it's like I'm going to be able to get through this. But there seems like there's some, even this, because again, we were looking at your playlist, and I'm like, there's some amount of despair in every song. This is a hopeful song, but I heard it as him talking to himself, and I did wonder with the Yellow Brick Road, like those analogies. I was like, did he write
nods-
this? Was
the
he
nods to all
tripping?
this.
Was he tripping? Did he have like some kind of self-realization, this moment? Because I know for me, in those psychedelic experiences I had, those were moments when I was like, holy shit, I'm seeing the world for how it truly
that's
is,
where
and I'm seeing myself for how I truly am, and I got to do something different. And I'm just
That's where I went. with
Yeah.
it. I was
Should we
like, he's
text
we
text him. I was like, he's on a bad
Can you
trip.
text him?
Yeah.
Text him and ask him.
He was on a bad trip, and he wants to get the fuck out of it.
Well, I don't even know if it's
so
just
come
the
help
trip.
me. He maybe thinks he's downstairs.
Maybe it is that
I don't
literal that
know.
it's like I will get out of this trip. But I'm wondering if the trip was like, I'm not making the right choices in my life, but tomorrow starts a new direction. There's hope. Like I can do something different.
right. I love that. That'd be better than mine. I
But
like that
you know,
better.
but
than
like-
Mine's so innocent.
I-
Mine's just taking someone who's got social anxiety and bringing them out and giving them a big hug.
Yeah, and maybe that's it too. Maybe he was speaking to somebody
let's
else.
hope so. See, hope.
Yeah,
Let's hope
but either
so.
way, it's hopeful. There's optimism.
Yeah, you hope to have that or
Mm-hmm.
that. Or
Okay, so
this.
I can't guarantee a response. He is a rock star.
That's true.
I-
But the question was simple. Were you tripping during writing Come Downstairs?
Okay.
You want to put money on it?
Well, we'll see.
I don't know if he was tripping while he wrote it.
He
but
wrote it based on the experience of taking
That's-
LSD
okay, so
or
that's-
some psychedelic. I would
Yeah.
I'd put $10.
Did you
on
read
that.
today that this LSD study has determined that one trip can rid you of anxiety forever?
I'm glad
I
you said
didn't
that.
read that
'cause
study, but I've read a lot about LSD or mushrooms, psychedelics for anxiety and depression.
We've got some stuff here for you, so
Yeah,
maybe
we're
it'll
gonna-
help you.
I'm not depressed.
All right.
But thank you. Thank you,
also,
doctor.
Also, do you remember where did we go? The Whitewater Center.
Whitewater Center. Yeah.
Who did we go with? Not Brian. Brian.
Brian was doing something else. We went with Ryan and Adam.
Okay.
So Guster's three guys essentially. They've added a fourth. Joe was the fourth.
What did
and
Joe play in the band?
The guitar.
He played guitar and
banjo
bass. But did he play bass too?
Yeah, they switch off.
So
Okay,
we went
switch
with
off
Joe and
instruments?
Ryan to the
And
Whitewater
Adam, I
Center.
think.
I will say something
Yeah.
that one of the coolest and most surreal experiences when we went whitewater rafting with them. We walked into the Whitewater Center,
Yeah.
and we were going to pay for our admission.
Yeah.
And right as we walked in, Satellite was playing. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember.
And
do
I remember I
that. That
turned
was
to I
weird.
don't know if it was Adam or whoever I was standing next to at
Did
the
he act
window.
like he didn't
and I
hear
I
it?
was like, what is it like? What is it like walking into a place like this and just hearing your song? Because
Yeah.
at that time, I mean, it's like, that's exactly what we were going for with our.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just like, holy shit! And he's just like, I think he was used to it. I don't remember what his response was.
Satellite is like on every Muzak,
Yeah.
whatever the right equivalent is. But you hear it in Target and
Yeah.
everywhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's just weird to be like, I didn't know him at all. I would not have been hanging out with him if it wasn't for you. And just to be standing there next to the guy, and it's like, there's your song coming on right as we walk
I
in.
wasn't super familiar with their stuff until I saw them because they toured a lot with Jump Little Children.
Yeah.
Out of Charleston.
That's how I
Charleston
heard
band.
about them.
Yep.
Was through
and
their
I
touring
saw
with Jump.
them, and I
And
saw
they
that
love those guys.
that
They were a great band.
Jump Little Children was opening for Guster, and I was like, "What? Why are they like?" Because Jump was
Yeah.
huge here, and I was
In
like,
this
"Why is
area.
in
this?"
this area, yeah.
Yeah, and I come into the Tremont Music Hall, an old music venue here, and it was insane. You couldn't get in. And
Yeah.
everyone was there to see. Well, of course, Jump Little Children, but Guster, their fans were like
Yeah.
rabid. It was crazy. It was nuts.
Yeah, they did it the right way. So they always made a point of connecting with their fans. Very early on, they were one of the first bands to use, the web and email and reaching out by sending newsletters. They always stayed after and went and took photos
Yeah.
and they did a lot to promote bands through a rep program. Like I was one of the reps. My rep name was Arby. So I'm
Arby.
pretty proud of.
That's nice.
And
where did that come from?
I came from
They just
the rep reservoir. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But they did a really good job right away. And so, I'm probably kind of that first wave of fans.
yeah,
Got people
absolutely.
turning 50 because they're a year older than I am.
Yeah.
So they're 50, 51. And what they've been able to do is keep those fans
Yeah.
their entire life cycle as fans, and then bring in a lot of those fans' kids
Yeah.
and stuff. It's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
they do a big festival that they put on themselves in Maine each summer on the ocean, and it's a lot of families who.
Where are they from?
Well, the guys grew up different places, but they met at in college at Tufts in Boston.
Okay.
So they're from different places.
Because I always see like bumper stickers that says Guster is for lovers, and I'm like, are they from Virginia?
Well, that
So
great topic. So when I was at UVA, they used to stay with me in Virginia, and Virginia's for lovers became a big slogan.
Yep.
And about around that time, they adopted Guster is for lovers. So they've had that since like the late 90s. They are incredibly smart guys. They've done a lot of really savvy marketing. And they continue to Ryan Miller, 2 messages. Any guesses?
I'm telling you.
Is he on acid now?
Well, at least he's not too big to respond to his old friend. Although if it's who's this, what number is it?
Yeah.
New phone, who dis?
What's a better story? Yes, totally.
All right, love it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the answer.
The answer is yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
Thank you, Ryan. So anyway, this is Come Downstairs and Say Hello.
let's listen to it.
Dorothy moves to click her ruby shoes, right in tune with Dark Side of the Moon. Someone could tell me where I belong. Be calm, be brave, it'll be okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
Have you guys heard my Bojangles story?
No, let's hear it.
What? You have one?
So Bojangles. Bojangles is a chicken place
Yeah,
on every
oh,
corner in the
yeah.
South,
Love
all over Charlotte, right?
Love
we live
it.
in the Charlotte area.
Cajun filet
So,
biscuit. My
I don't
favorite.
know, 15 years ago, whatever it was, my mom's down here for a weekend, my parents, and we drive by Bojangles. My mom says, "Oh, Bojangles." And I said, "Yeah, it's like a chicken place that's real popular down here. They're everywhere." She's like, "Yeah. We have one back home." And I said, "Wait a minute. Back home is Traverse City, Michigan at this point in time, okay?" And I said, "You don't have Bojangles in Traverse City, Michigan." She goes, No, we do. I drive by it every day. I'm like, "I don't think so." And she said, "Well, you're coming home for Thanksgiving. We'll go to Bojangles, okay?"
Right.
Fast forward a month. I'm going home for Thanksgiving. I land.
And you remembered.
You know what I'm thinking about, right? A freaking Cajun bow biscuit or
Or
whatever.
a
those
bowberry biscuits.
Bowberry biscuits
whatever.
are
And those
amazing.
bow tots or
Bow
whatever.
rounds.
Bow
rounds.
rounds.
Come on.
Yeah,
Bow-
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We got to get it right.
I'm thinking like this is gonna be amazing, right? So I get in the car, Mom, we're going to Bojangles, right? She's like, "Oh yeah. I remember. We'll take you by Bojangles." We drive right from the airport, about 10 minutes, and we drive past the shopping center. She pulls in, we pull up. She's like, "There it is, right there, guys." Bojangles. It's a hair salon. Bojangles.
Did they serve food?
No, there's no food.
Well, shit.
There are
I mean, what are you
no
gonna?
rounds? It's Bojangles. So fast forward to last summer, I'm up there. It's still there, Bojangles.
Bojangles.
So that's my Bojangles story.
That's great.
love
What
it.
kind of disappointment, though?
I
man?
know,
That is,
I know, especially for a hungry guy getting off the
Yeah,
flight.
if you want.
But I got a great
egg and
haircut.
cheese biscuit. Like,
All right,
what
so-
did we just do? We just
So
listened.
we just listened to Guster. We got
Yep.
an update from Ryan Miller that no one has ever listened to that song while tripping, and it's left to the imagination whether he was when he wrote
Yeah.
it. So.
Yeah.
I like the mystique.
I love
Mystique.
that though about songs. It's like it can mean, and it's a cliche. Like it can mean whatever you want it to mean. Blah 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 blah. We've talked about it. Like writing songs, like you want to be direct and let people know what you're saying, but at the same time you want to be a little ambiguous and a little universal. But
Well-
maybe not every time. But like it just.
I mean, you don't want to write a song about a girl every time?
Well, that was
Can
most.
you tell Jason that? Or-
Most songs are. Most songs are about that for what Jason does for sure. But like not
we need
necess-
another songwriter.
Not
know.
necessarily.
Where's my McCartney?
So your new stuff is not all about
no,
girls.
no, not everything's but about. come on.
Not everything.
No,
but
just 99%.
70,
but it
70%.
comes back. It's
Let's go.
yeah.
Let's
I get
pare
it.
it down a little.
It ca-
But no, well, so that song, what I love about the song is it has movements. It's like
Yeah.
what's interesting to me about the song musically is the way the music is carrying the message of the lyric, the new direction. The song literally takes
in
you
a
on a
direction.
journey.
Yeah.
The song starts off with this very subdued, mellow sort of arrangement, and it builds to this full band
Would you
orchestration.
almost say it starts in black and white and moves to color?
It almost.
Wow.
I wonder if that
is-
was part of the
is
the intention when they wrote those.
I
When
don't
he wrote
know,
it, when
but I got to tell you, the thing about the band Guster is they represent what most bands like you guys are hoping and seeking to do, where you just start out by working hard, playing shows, building a real organic base that carries you, and you're never captive to the record label
Right.
or radio.
They've done what they
or
want to do.
They've done exactly what they want to do. They're releasing records now on their own label. They pick the shows they do, and they've made a career out of it.
Yeah.
And there just aren't a lot of bands, unfortunately, in our era that can say that. I mean,
That's
it's
true.
a hard business, and they've figured out how to make it a career and stay true to what they want it to be.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll go? Do you think it can go back to that? Like, can it go back to that?
I think it happens more often than we're giving it, giving credit for. I think
Maybe.
there are plenty of bands that do that.
Yeah.
I think it's the difficult thing to do is the longevity. Like they've done that and continue to do it for so long, right? I mean, you look at bands like
30-ish years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that there have been bands that have, plenty of independent bands who've stayed true to their sound and kind of managed their own careers. But I think it's a weird time for music because there's so much. You have so much access to fans, to people who are potential fans, people who could love your music. Like the playing field has been sort of leveled out in some ways in that regard through social media and things like that. But at the same time, now you're dealing with like this very oversaturated playing field where everybody has the exact same access, right? So it's like there are pros and cons to that. But I think for those who do break through, I think now is the time when you can do that. You don't need a record label and
Not at all.
right? You can market yourself, you can promote your own music, you can do everything independently. Even down to, I mean, we're here at Susu Studio where people make records and they pay money to make records, and that's important, but people have found ways to bootstrap that and do it themselves, on next to no budget at home with recording software or, maybe some hybrid of that and going into real studios for some portion of the tracking or mixing. So I think it's definitely now is a time when that can be done.
Right.
But to see a band like Guster who has, it started in when did they really begin playing together?
So they graduated college in 95, so they probably started playing together in like 93.
Yeah, so early 90s, and
Yep.
it's 2024 and they're still doing it. I mean, that's amazing.
So that's my
Amazing.
third song,
All right.
and that's where it kind of falls off from here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's all
it
downhill.
will.
Yeah.
It definitely will.
So my fourth song
Uh-huh.
is a song by a little-known band from Charlotte, North Carolina called the Noises 10. Originally, Jason Scavone and the Noises 10, but then management got involved and kind of tamed the ego, and it became
No, it didn't.
yeah, at least by name. It reminded
Yeah.
me of what was Jack Black and Kyle Gass, Tenacious D, where they had to make a decision if they were going to become a power trio with Sasquatch on one of the episodes.
Right, yeah.
It was kind of the same thing with Jason. Like, am I willing to drop my name from this, or do I just do it
Yeah.
my way?
Yeah.
Came full circle, though.
The better play, if you ever saw that episode, was that's true. That's totally true.
Full circle.
Life cycle. But
Yeah,
but if
yeah.
you ever saw that episode, they do go out and jam in the woods with Sasquatch, and it's amazing. Sasquatch is like Neil Peart. Like it's
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't see that. I'll be
well, I
watching
recommend
tonight.
it. But
Yeah. Okay.
so Noises 10, band that you guys both were in, many other great musicians through the years. And we had just an incredible opportunity and journey in working on a major label album with a fantastic producer, Eric Valentine, in Hollywood, which, you know, we have memories, Jason, you and I going out there and kind of doing our interview of sorts with Eric and it coming to fruition. And the song I picked is February Song. And it's hard to pick one song. They all are special to me. But what February Song means more than the lyric, and I like the, you know, you can speak to the message as the writer, but I like what it means to me in terms of, you know, kind of a refresh and a rebuild on things. February always being the month after the haze of the holidays wear off. But more than anything, this song captures the spirit of what it felt like in 2008 to be part of something that was on a trajectory to be greater than it was when it started. And what I mean by that is major label recording with a A-list producer in Hollywood. The drums are freaking piercing.
Oh yeah, amazing drum sound.
It's a rock and roll tune. I think of all of the times that we played it in front of you know, interested parties and studios and otherwise. And it brings me back to a point in time where we were incredibly hopeful about the future of the band, the evolution of the sound, the songwriting, a lot of which didn't come to fruition. And you know, such is life. Not everything works just because you're dreaming it that way. But when this song was recorded and we were together in Los Angeles at Barefoot Recording and going through a very disciplined recording approach, which I think has benefited you and your career since then, it just encapsulates what it felt like to capture that energy in one song. I mean, I remember Jonathan playing drums under the Drumbrella.
Oh yeah.
All of which you guys can talk to more particular than me. I was just hanging out watching, but it brings me back.
Yeah.
It brings me back, and it represents for me a period of time from, call it 05 to 10, those 5 years, 11, whatever it was, where we were working really hard on driving the future of this band in an era where I think when we got dropped from Jive, the statement from the CEO was, you know, I know Britney Spears, I don't know the Noises 10 or something. I mean, it was probably some bad timing in terms of what we were trying to do in the era of the pop artists and boy bands. But nevertheless, it was kind of an unparalleled experience to go through that with you guys, with others, and feel the possibilities of what could come.
Yeah, that's that's interesting because like the song to me, we were listening to it and it brings me back. I mean, to me, as I wrote it, it was a pretty dark song, writing it from a dark place. However, it is also much like the other songs we've listened to. It's pretty hopeful as well. Maybe not the Smith song, but you know, the Guster song. It's hopeful because like that's what was happening. Like, you know, to me, things seemed pretty dismal and like there wasn't much hope back home. And now these new opportunities were popping up, and it was like, yeah, here we are. I mean, and the Noises 10, it was it's interesting because like everything felt like it happened pretty organically for us. You know, not that we didn't work hard, and clearly we did, and with your help and you're driving us and sort of, you know, helping steer us in the right direction. But I mean, we rehearsed, I don't even know, every day almost. I mean, Jonathan and I at least got together every day. It was our
at least 4 times a week.
Yeah. But in our minds, we had conversations like, we're going to be rock stars. We're going to be, you know, like we said that to ourselves and we said that to each other, but we didn't work it didn't like that. Each next step kind of presented itself very naturally. Like it went from like our first show, you know, a couple, maybe 100 people came out, and then like very naturally to playing bigger shows in Charlotte, to the bigger bands in Athens or Atlanta wanting to trade shows, and it just, and then to the Eric Valentine, you know, relationship. And so yeah, it was just like a hopeful time. I'm like, oh, this is exactly what's supposed to be happening right now. This makes perfect sense, you know? And man, what a fun time too. But like Eric, working with Eric definitely shaped, you know, my whole approach to working in a recording studio as a producer and engineer is 100% modeled after him.
Yeah. Same for me, like as a player.
Yeah.
Like those were like the most, I was so anxious every time I knew I had to do drum tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Like the
You
anxiety
should've
level.
You should have done LSD.
Yeah.
Should have. I'll try it
Should've
next
texted
time.
Ryan back
Was,
then.
you know, through the roof, and I hated recording because I was so afraid that
Yeah.
Eric
Well,
would.
those were stressful sessions.
They were
in some
very
way.
stressful.
They were fun, but they were stressful.
They were fun, but the good thing was I was done. I'm done the first week.
Yeah. Well,
and then you guys have to deal with that shit.
Yeah,
but,
and,
like,
and when I say stressful, it was just the pressure. There was pressure. It's like, well, here we are with, you know, where there's a record label here, you know, and this was a development deal, right? And
A&R guys and
right, but also it was like
management and
we went
producer, like it's a lot to.
and just the recording process. Like we
Yeah.
would record at CHP with Patrick Engineering, and it was just kind of like, when can we get together? And you know, if we got started, nobody had schedules. It was just like, we're gonna record until we're done, and then we'll leave. And there was no with Eric. It was, we slept in the loft upstairs at the studio. I think he got there at 7 a.m.
His dog Elsie would come up and wake us up.
And he'd wake us, and it was like
like
set
7
schedule.
o'clock.
And he was one of those guys
ready.
that lived it. Like when he was on a record, we would get started first thing in the morning, and there would be no clock out time until he was just burnt. You know, I mean, we would go late.
Well, a lot of that was the fact too that, you know, like you said, you'd play the drums like the first week.
Yep.
The second week, Eric would have to redo all the drums.
Yeah,
That's
true.
not
And then-
true. That's
Well,
not
Jonathan was-
true.
well,
Although he
Jonathan was
could play,
passed out in the loft.
he
was-
could play it better than me, I'm sure, but that's
Well,
not true.
Yeah, no, but he did. We did hear stories about other records he worked on where things like that took place. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. But
But when you look back on that time, it was, like you said, it was like an organic evolution to that. Mm-hmm. And it was, as stressful as it was exactly where we wanted to be.
yeah,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
only
And
stressful.
we needed to be
It was
there,
only.
like
I
that.
don't know if stressful is the right word. It just was pressure, and it was discipline, like you said. It was a very structured way to approach recording, which is how I run things here. But prior to that, we were in our mid 20s. We didn't have any structure in our lives at all, and let alone in a recording studio. To us, it was like recording studios were where we made music, but we also partied and had fun, you know. And so it was like, we're here to work. And I mean, sitting down and doing guitar take after guitar take, and Eric's ear is so meticulous. It was like the performance could be perfect, but what he was looking for was not just the perfect and precise performance, but the magical performance. And it could just be the simple little, like, you know, the verse progression where the guitar is just kind of buried and blending in with the mix. It's like, it might not be so notable to the average listener, but he wanted every element to feel like it had that little thing that made it special. Yeah. And so, it was just.
I'll never forget it. He said when we first started meeting with him, he was like, I want the moment when you guys are jumping up on the couch behind me. Like, this is it. This is it. This is it.
Yeah,
I don't know if we got there, but
I don't know. But that song,
we may have.
That song sounds amazing, and
I think this song captures the Noises 10 almost better than any other.
Yeah.
I really do.
I agree with that. Yeah,
So let's play it.
let's check it out.
We don't want to see the way things really are now with us. And this February song has been sung too long. Though it moves you in a way, it's gonna break you, break you. Let's take it off for a while. So we're good again.
If you're just joining us, I'm here at Feed the Birds podcast with singer-songwriter Jason Scavone and drummer extraordinaire Jonathan Erickson. This is Andy Johnson, your host. Guys,
You should do a podcast.
We were gonna do it. You had an idea for a podcast a couple years ago during COVID. Do you remember that?
yeah, I do.
It was about. It was gonna be
we were going to bring both of our young kids in. And we were going to play them an old album and get their take on songs.
Yeah, I think
That's a
still
great idea.
Yeah.
But your kids are older now.
Yeah, they're jaded now. They've already they've already got their views on.
They
on
know the
music.
truth.
But it is kind of neat to like someone who's open to hearing new music and they're young. Just play them a Jackson Brown album and see what they think. You know,
Yeah.
or a song, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
I put that on record. That's my idea. So. And we don't want to
your
get it confused with yours. So, it's not going to be For the Birds. It's going to be Feed the Birds.
That's fine.
That's a totally different.
So are your
podcast.
daughters into? It's Lauren and Elise.
Yeah.
Are they into music?
Yeah, both of them absolutely are. Lauren's got more of the, kind of classic upbringing of likes a lot of 70s, 80s. I think for kids in high school, 80s is kind of maybe the go-to of what the 60s were when I was in high school. So it's kind of the start. Right. She'll reach back to a 70s song or two, but her playlist is a lot of 80s and 90s. And then like any kid in high school, there's a bit of new stuff. Mostly Taylor Swift, who can do no wrong.
Who doesn't love Taylor Swift?
And
I really enjoy
my older
I'm just
daughter.
saying, I like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I love Taylor
She's
Swift.
brilliant.
I mean, I went to the Eras concert this summer with my older daughter Elise, and was just blown away by the songs. I mean, they're so good.
Yep.
My favorite, All Too Well, 10-minute version off of Red. Not my favorite album, my favorite song. The changes in that song are insane. Lyrics are insane.
Yeah.
So I think Elise in college, they listen to a lot of hip hop. And she was at a party. It was in a house. It was like I don't know if you've been in one of these.
So
She goes to college. She goes to this college called Auburn, and they had a party at a house.
No, it was
the only time I heard about it before.
It was in a structure. I just want to say it was in a structure.
They didn't hear the Smiths, but they had some EDM and that kind of stuff. So believe it or not, you started the house party thing back in the 90s.
Yeah, that was
still going.
I did?
Yeah, well, apparently you talked about the first house party.
I'll take it.
The Smiths.
Got to start something.
What's kind of cool, talking about like younger kids and kids that maybe are a little older than your kids, but is the resurgence of like the collecting music, which always was special to me, right? I always got into like the cover. I like to read what was even in cassette tapes. I used to like to open them up and see
Fold them
if
out.
there were lyrics or
Yep.
or there were tributes to people or who played on what song. That seems to be, and it makes sense because there's something really real about owning a manifestation of the music you hear. And clearly, economically, it makes a lot more sense just to have your Spotify or your Apple Music or whatever it is. But I'm finding that a lot of kids are interested in vinyl now.
Vinyl, for sure, yeah.
It's expensive. It's way more expensive than when we were collecting tapes or CDs. But it's nice that people are buying record players, and they might not be buying at the same volume. Going to the used CD store like I did, trying to look in the 5 and under bin. But they're buying a few albums on vinyl and getting that experience of what it means to own a piece of music that not only you've paid for and presumably worked to pay for it and made a conscious buying decision to buy that as opposed to something else, but there's a different experience when you listen to an album, which our kids were not raised on albums. They were raised on singles. And that's a completely different way of listening to music.
Yeah, well, I've even seen a resurgence of cassette tapes, like in younger bands, like playing clubs. They'll it looks like they're doing it themselves, I think, but they're just making cassettes that they'll sell at the shows, and I think that, I don't know who has cassette players anymore, but I think
you can get one if you need one. They're very cheap on eBay.
I mean, you can get Betamax. I mean, you can get an 8-track.
I think that's really just a representation of people trying to give you something that's physical without, we've done vinyl. It's really expensive.
And it takes
really
a long
hard
time.
to get people to do it. It takes a long time. A tape can be done very quickly.
Yeah.
But I view all that as positive because if someone throws in a tape or if they put on a vinyl, typically they're committing to listen to at least a side, if not a whole album.
Right.
And that's just not common anymore.
No, it's not.
And for some artists, it's important if you're going to get what they're trying to do and trying to convey that you listen to more than one song.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it's harder now to put albums, like full length LPs out as a new young artist. I mean, like we did it with Catastrophic Dreams. It's like you got to break it up into singles because you pour so much. Unless, if you're an established artist, if you're a Taylor Swift or even Noah Kahan or whoever, they can put albums out and people are going to take the time to digest that. But it's harder for bands and artists that aren't on that level to get away with that unless they have those fans that are willing to do it. I mean, I remember when we did the Fine Today LPs, the vinyls, and you and I came to your house and we sat in your vinyl room and we listened front to back.
Yep.
Like that is such a rare thing, but it's so important. Like I was saying, when I was a kid, I would listen. My dad gave me his Audio-Technica record player, and I got all of his old vinyl. And when it wasn't his vinyl, it was my cassettes or the CDs. And I was always I'd lay on my floor, put the album on, look through the album art. I wanted to know who was playing. I wanted to know the lyrics. I wanted to just see the cool artwork they had or the photos.
I did the same
and
thing.
you didn't have social media where it's like you could see a daily
You
or a
weren't
post.
saturated with
No,
with
it's like
images
there was
of the
so much
artist.
mystery behind the
It was
artist.
special.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was.
Yeah, but I think that is interesting though, because I think it's important still to have like a physical asset that you can give your true fans, sell to your true fans, and that's a way they can support you. But also, it's something tangible that they can have.
So are you going to make cassette tapes for your next
totally.
album?
Yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
was great.
Can-
at making
can we do
mix-
that?
Mix cassette tapes.
Can
for
we
girls
do-
mixtapes?
back in middle school and high school?
Mixtapes.
So can you send like what we're working on now to
We'll
like
just do it here.
you can make cassette tapes here?
We'll just get a cassette player, and just record
Oh,
it
just
in.
actual mixtapes.
We just mix it in, but we record it in. But I'm sure there are companies that are distributing at large quantities of
That
cassettes.
might be
I think
cool.
the
I like
cassette
that.
tape thing is exactly as you described, though, Jason. People have a way to play vinyl. People have a way to play CDs. Nobody has a tape player anymore.
I have a
So-
tape player in my car.
Well,
my
maybe
car's
we
not-
could start that.
1995.
Maybe we could start it. All right. Well, we'll do vinyl then.
No, but I think that's the key. Is like the people who are listening to vinyl are the true music fans who are willing to sit still in one place. The majority of the time that I'm listening to music, I'm on the go. I'm in my vehicle. I'm traveling
Yep.
to the studio.
You
home
got
from the studio,
AirPods
I'm in the van going to
in.
gigs.
Yeah,
I'm listening to albums, and I love that. But unless we're on the road going to a gig, it's like I don't get through a whole album. I get through a few songs, right? But what we do at the house, we have a record player in our living room, and the vinyl collection's there. And it's like in the morning when I'm getting the kids up for school, I put the vinyl on, and it's just like we're gonna have music playing in the background while we're cooking dinner. That's to me, that's what people need, is more of those experiences where it's like maybe you sit down and you're just really tuning in, but even if you're not, just have it there.
Have it in the
and playing.
background. We used to do that with Rumors, Fleetwood Mac. We would
I
put
still do that with the Rumors.
We would put that.
Such a
We
great
would
album.
put that on every morning, and my kids love it.
We might have to redo my 4. I might have to put
Take February song off and put.
Shit. All right, let me.
You didn't
let me
have to
pull
put a
it up.
Noises 10 song on there, you know. Yeah, I mean, he's probably like, I'm going on their podcast.
No, it was more
I'd be a
like-
real dick if I didn't put a Noises 10 song.
Well, no, it wasn't that, guys. I mean, no, you guys. I just knew I'm the only guest that even heard of the Noises stuff. So
That's what we were thinking of that too. We're like,
I was like, I can picture you guys talking to your next guest, whomever, and saying, "Yeah, with Noises 10." They're like, "Who the fuck are the Noises?"
Yeah.
In
I
fact,
say
that's
that.
a bumper sticker.
I say that.
Who the fuck are the Noises?
Who
10?
the fuck are the, yeah, I say
Getting
that
that.
every day.
Getting that.
So that was kind of what drove that decision.
Well, thank you, man.
But,
I appreciate
boy.
that.
Yeah.
It's very generous, and now we get to put our song on a playlist.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we appreciate your time here.
Yeah, I
Andy
appreciate it.
Johnson.
Thank you for being on the inaugural episode of For the Birds, not Feed the Birds.
That's not Feed
I'll
the
never
Birds.
get that right.
It's
Nor will any future artist.
Damn it.
Guest, collaborator.
it's for the
interesting
birds.
person.
It's a common saying, right? Do you know what it means?
I've said feed the birds more than for the birds.
But do you
in my
know
life.
what for the birds means?
It means this is terrible,
Correct.
right? I mean,
Done. That's
I think of it more of it's like archaic. It's like
no.
it's
It
for the
means
birds.
it's
here he goes
it's
again.
it's
I'm literal, and he's like,
no. I'm
okay.
just-
If you had, let me just give an example.
it's
If you had two things on a table, you had a steak
yeah.
and you had like some seeds. You're gonna get
Which
the
one's
seed.
for the birds?
Which one's for the birds?
Right, but
the worst one.
I got you.
Okay.
That means not worth consideration.
Not worth consideration.
That's the actual definition.
But that's the point.
Well, I
here.
hope
we're not
people
trying to take
consider-
ourselves too
'cause
seriously
what I think
here.
is cool about this, first of all, you guys are a great tandem and have a lot of synergy between you. But what we talked about today, and what I'm sure future guests will talk about, is sort of real life relatable.
Yeah.
Because the people you're going to have on, I'm just an ordinary guy.
You're
But
not.
you-
You're not an
but-
ordinary
well,
guy.
But man, my story is different than the next person.
Yeah.
But otherwise, what we have in common is like music has been something that's important to us, and you don't have to be famous or
Yeah.
music's important to everyone if you let it. Not everybody does.
Right.
Once in a while, you guys meet someone and they don't care about music, and you're
That's
like,
exactly what I said. I was like,
how do you live? Like,
Yeah.
I was
even
nervous
if you're like a
about-
big fan of an artist that I don't get. Those people make me nervous.
so I was nervous about that.
Are they real?
We
Well, he was saying, wouldn't it be fun to have a guest on who hates music?
they're like, I don't like music. I don't
I
listen
know
to
plenty
any
of those
music.
people.
I don't-
Do you
Do
really?
you? Who?
I'm a lawyer.
But here's the
Fuck.
thing.
Who?
I just don't know,
What?
man.
what-
I don't know if
so-
anybody
so
really
if-
doesn't like
so
music.
if we had someone on here that was like, I don't listen to music. I don't like music. Like, what the fuck are we gonna say?
Well,
Like,
here's the thing.
Well,
I
what
don't.
do you like?
hi.
What do you like? Let's talk about that. But here's the thing. I don't
Well,
think
that is-
anybody doesn't like music. I think people don't feel like they have the time for music. Just like they might not have the time to read a book, or they might not have the time to go
That's true.
view art at a gallery, right? I think that music.
What do they have time for though?
Well, they feel like
fill
their
it
life
with
is too
other
important and
things.
busy.
Yeah.
And music is, I think that like it's like a lot of people stop reading books
see, I
before they
don't-
stop listening to music. A lot of people stop going and viewing art or seeing a show before they stop listening to music. Music's easier to hold on to, but so if you don't like listening to music, you got to really evaluate your life.
So if someone says I don't have time for music, what else are they filling their time with?
Well, they're filling it with something because I spend a shitload of time on music.
But you have time for music, and you're one of the busiest.
he's one of the
you're
busiest
one of the
people I
busiest
know, yeah.
motherfuckers
But
I know.
make time.
But
But
you,
here's the thing, guys. When I leave here tonight, I've got an hour and a half drive. Guess what I'm going to be doing?
Listening to music.
Listen to music.
Yeah.
So those people who aren't, are they on the phone because they're doing business, or they listening to a news channel? People fill their time. I think it's a great challenge for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to bring on a very reasonable, good person that
Mm-hmm.
we know who doesn't care at all about music.
Yeah.
And knows nothing about music, doesn't make time for it, and find out what makes them tick.
Yeah, that's a good challenge. Because I said this to somebody today, and I say it regularly. In my opinion, and I'm biased here, but it's one of the reasons I have pursued a career in music my entire life. Music is the most effective medium for communication, or for communicating and presenting art. You have lyrics. Like I could say something as simple as "I love you." Doesn't sound so profound, but if I sing that with just the right melody, over just the right harmonic movement, over just the right rhythmic support, with just the right emotive delivery, then it becomes profound. And physically, you're touched by it. Physically, right? You're the energy of the sound waves is reaching you and touching you. It's, I mean, you could say, well, film, right? Film could be more, but what is most film based on? Now there's documentary, but it's fiction, like most films. So you're seeing actors, you're seeing people perform and mime a part. Music in its most effective form is genuine, vulnerable truth. So if you don't connect with that,
Damn, bro, keep preaching.
dude, I'm just saying, I want to meet this person who doesn't connect with music.
well,
in
that's
any
my
way.
thing too. That could be a good thing. Like, I just don't know how like what makes them tick. Like,
I'm just going to tell them how stupid they
People
are.
are motivated.
No,
by-
you don't say that.
People are
But-
motivated by different things, guys.
But-
If you didn't grow up in a household that valued music, and maybe you grew up in a situation where you were focused on X activity, and that's become like consuming to you. Those people are everywhere.
Yeah.
They just are. And then they get in their professional life, and maybe they have a family life and a professional life,
Right.
and they just don't bring music into either one, and life
I
goes
think
on.
I think some of those people, and we won't keep you for too much longer, but I think some of those people don't realize they haven't taken the time to really take a look at how integral music actually is. They haven't taken a look at we watch UFC fights all the time. Walkout songs, one of the most important moments of the night.
Oh, it's the
walkout songs. Okay, you're I don't know, a football fan. I don't know anything about football
or
but
wrestling, WWE, whatever.
What, I mean,
WWF and NWA
like
is my
music constantly scores. You know, you watch an Alfred Hitchcock film and you take
Rock
the
and Roll
score away.
Express.
You know, it's like
Midnight Express.
Well, they fought
I know.
many times.
Just saying.
You know what I'm saying is the point is that it's everywhere, and if you take it away, you realize what you're
here's
missing.
The challenge, guys. I think you've found it. It's twofold. The first part is you find a reasonable person, because you could find just someone that there's no talking to.
Yeah.
Who will come in and he or she will talk about how their life is void of music. They don't care at all about music. Interesting, right? I'll tune in.
But the
Second part of that, I think I can find these people.
Okay.
You're going to convert them to a music fan.
But where do we go from there?
That's the challenge.
That's the challenge.
You're going to play a song, and you're going to see if they actually say, "Yeah, let it be, man. Let it be."
Or they walk out.
Or they walk out.
Right,
They say, "I
right.
got to get back on my WallStreetJournal.com."
Right.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Well,
I don't know.
You help us find that person, because I would accept that
Listen,
challenge.
I'm your music. What did you call me? Your music companion?
Musical companion.
Okay.
Musical
So
companion
in
and
this-
musicologist, which I was like, I don't think that's a word.
It's a word. You know a lot about music. Outside of the music theory and the fundamental aspects of, what goes into the making of music, you know a lot of musicians and the history of albums.
You
and
know more than both of us.
Absolutely.
Like by far.
Yeah, but that's not saying much.
Oh, no, that's a good point. But I'm just saying, like,
Are we back to the tallest midget discussion? Listen, I appreciate that. Music's been a big part of my life. You guys are doing great work here. I will do my part as your musical companion to find someone who is soulless and completely devoid of musical influence.
Wait, he's sitting right there. There he is.
I'm full of soul, man.
He's got
I got soul, but I'm
He's
not
got
a soldier.
Yeah.
All right?
Oh, Killer's reference.
Oh, look out.
Yeah.
Great song.
Oh, let me text Brandon. You texted Ryan, right? Let me text Brandon and see if he'll get on here real fast. Come on.
Doubtful.
Okay, we'll see if he gets back to
Maybe
me.
Larry Little can get him. This has been fun, guys.
All right.
I know we went way over, but
Sorry for keeping you.
my 3 fans are gonna love this,
Thanks, man.
and keep doing it, man. We're young. I mean, we are young.